So my name is Brian Piper. I'm the Director of Content Strategy and Assessment at the University of Rochester. I'm also a member of the Ed3 DAO. So the Ed3 DAO is designed to educate educators about Web3. So then that way they can introduce the next generation to Web3 technologies, and eventually we can use Web3 to change the way we do education, because we know that there are problems with our education system. Today I'm going to talk about specifically using NFTs to change education through community. So, quick show of hands, how many people here are in Web3 communities that are gated partially or entirely by NFTs? Excellent, great. How many people in here went to school? Right? Everybody goes to school. Now, here's the question. Of those who went to school, how many feel like you got a personalized education based on your learning needs and your skills and your talents? No one ever answers yes to that question, right? But we're supposed to go out and take this knowledge that we have, this education that doesn't fit us, and take this diploma that's supposed to represent the knowledge that we have and get a job. And we won't even get into the fact that most employers don't even validate your credentials. They don't validate the things on your resume because it's difficult. Now we know that NFTs can help solve that problem with verifications and certifications. But what about all the other problems that education faces? So there are a lot of Web3 education communities where they have gated the community based on which NFTs you own. You earn more NFTs based on passing certain knowledge tests, showing that you have certain skills. This gives you access to other areas in the community where you can connect with other people facing the same problems and having the same experiences. This creates opportunities for us to connect with those people and form those different relationships. Traditional education institutions know the power of community. They allow students to enter groups, join teams and organizations, but they fail to fit that into their packaged education systems that we have. There are a lot of higher education institutions that are starting to explore using Web3 technologies and NFTs. New Media Institute, University of Georgia is issuing program certificates as NFTs. Trinity School and Hoseo University and several other universities are starting to issue diplomas as NFTs. Duke is offering a 3-day NFT conference in a couple of weeks where they're actually going to bring in a bunch of Web3 experts to talk about how Web3 can change a lot of different sectors, including education. Berkeley used NFTs for fundraising. University of Miami created the Canes Vault, which is an NFT marketplace focused on building a community for the Miami Hurricanes. And NYU created the Art Lab, which is used, it's a community that's used specifically to promote creators and artists. And then Arizona State University is creating the ASU Pocket, which is a digital wallet that students can use to store their credentials and skills aptitudes. So this is great, but what about communities specifically? So we know that communities can help build relationships. When we look at our elementary school education, we know that our children are facing a lot of challenges and a lot of issues these days. Between more time spent on digital devices and less time spent socializing with other people, to issues with social media, they're facing all sorts of issues, putting them into a crisis situation. There was a study done recently that showed that 75% of US teens face serious loneliness issues. 66% have anxiety. 60% have severe depression. 35% of US teens have suicidal thoughts. There are ways that we could use NFTs to start creating communities in our elementary school education system that will follow them all the way through their entire education experience. What if teachers could issue NFTs to students to indicate their method of learning? So if they were experiential learners or visual learners or audio learners, or if they had ADHD or if they had other issues, And then that way, the other teachers would be able to know moving forward. They'd be able to organize them in different groups and communities so that they could connect with other students who learn the same ways. Teachers could set up the learning to specifically fit those students so they could customize the experience to either facilitate or challenge them based on their learning methods. When we start looking at how you can integrate the metaverse into these communities, now you could use all sorts of NFTs to help bridge geographical, socioeconomic, and institutional gaps that students face. When you look at the way that higher education students could use NFTs, they could, through these communities, they could form DAOs, which could give them opportunities to actually be involved in the decision-making process. So they could vote on different things based on what kind of curriculum is being offered or how resources are allocated based on the different programs that they're interested in. We know that more diverse teams create better solutions. They create solutions faster than their less diverse counterparts. Creating these NFT communities by joining groups of different people together, different grade levels, whether they're students or teachers, but they all share the same interest, creates those sorts of diverse groups. When you start looking at the ways that institutional research can be changed using NFT communities, it's staggering. So what if you created communities around different areas of interest dealing with problems that we face as a world? So you could have researchers and non-researchers that could come together to brainstorm different ideas, to come up with different solutions, to share research findings. Then you could have separate areas of that community for researchers specifically to be able to collaborate, to share access to specialized tools and equipment, and eventually to be able to solve some of the biggest problems that we face. And then those communities could also be accessible by the alumni. So ongoing education, lifelong learning, a lot of times that is up to the individual or the institution to try to force that to happen. If these people belong to these different communities, they could go in and have access to all the educational resources that they had while they were in college, and now they have this entire network, and they're allowed to connect with students who could potentially be their next employees. There are so many different ways that NFTs can be used. We understand the power of NFT communities. It's up to us to start looking for ways to connect our existing NFT communities with the next generation. So we can look for opportunities to collaborate with different institutions who have similar interests as us so that we could create these connections, create these opportunities for collaboration between us. As NFT communities, using our digital assets to store our credentials will allow students to better showcase their skills and knowledge. It will give employers an easier way to find people who actually match up with the skills that they're looking for, regardless of what diploma that you hold. So, thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate it.